康哦，这个。
Oh, okay. Okay, we went live before. We may.
Oh my god.
We may have been live though. I don't know. Anyway, so
Now I think it's live.
Now
Before I don't think it was live at all.
Okay, now it's probably live.
Okay, welcome to Floating Lifty.
Yeah, welcome to the live session. I'm Noah, and Shoan is here. You can hear her behind the computer looking at your comments. So if you're there, say hi to Shoan.
And say hi to Noah too.
And say hi to me too.
Let us know what's happening on your side, because with technology we are very
unprepared. Let's just say we're unprepared. So today we're going to be talking about a different way to brew Dongding, and you can use either traditional A Dongding or any of our charcoal roasted Dongdings. I'm gonna wait a few minutes so people that are slowly trickling in can get their stuff ready. But you need a clay pot or a gaiwan or a porcelain pot, just a small pot for Gongfu style tea, whatever your usual Gongfu tea setup is, and then a lot of leaves. Like for 100 milliliter pot, for example, roughly 12 grams of leaves. So you can take some time to get your stuff ready. Is anyone commenting so far?
Steve Leakey said, "Oh, I shouldn't say your full name. Sorry." Rewind.
If it's on the YouTube,
they'll
be able to see it anyway.
True.
Once the comments go up.
It said, "Good morning, Sean and Noah."
Hey, Steve.
Sweden A says, "Thanks for doing this, you too."
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us know you are actually on there.
Yeah. Yeah, we like to see your comments. Yeah, so give it a few more minutes for people to trickle. We can just bullshit for a minute.
We can chit chat.
We can chit chat. We can bullshit. We can do whichever we want. But I did want to mention there's 2 more live sessions coming up in August. The samplers are already out. It's going to take them probably at the most 4 weeks to get to you if you're in America, and it could be much sooner in other places. And if you're in Canada, it could be much longer. But yeah, we're doing a Jin Tren session and a Baozhong session, and those are both listed on our website. Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we start?
No, just go for it.
Okay, I think I'll start then.
I'm ready to drink some tea.
So, like I said, you don't need too much special equipment, just your regular Gongfu setup. The baseline of this style of brewing is that you just use a lot more leaves. But it's not just like, oh, make a strong tea and that's how people should drink tea. But I'll talk a little bit about what I noticed and what it was pointed out to me about Dongding tea when it's brewed that strong that I didn't notice about Dongding tea before. So I'm just going to start by brewing the tea.
Lori from Ontario.
Ontario.
Yeah, that one. Sorry for abuse your town and Canada. I sincerely apologize. She just joined us.
So I'm just heating up my teaware, and just have like lots of leaves ready. I'm going to use about, we measure in layers, especially in like a regular round teapot like this or a gaiwan, you can do this. If it's like a really wide teapot like this, it's probably not going to be as useful. But just play with it. I'm going to use 3 layers of dry leaves in here. I see what you mean. It feels like a cooking show.
Right.
So, I don't know if you'll be able to see if I point my pot that way. It's about a third of the way, a little more than a third of the way full with tea leaves. Can you see inside the pot? Yeah, maybe.
What?
Can you see inside the pot if I put it this way?
Do it again.
Okay.
Well, it's not showing up. It's always
It's delayed, so
10.
just give it a second and then
Okay.
and then tell me.
Oh, okay. No,
Okay.
not at all.
Never mind. Should be about like a third of the way full, maybe a little bit more. Have you smell the leaves?
Thank you.
So this is our new charcoal roasted dongding. I picked it up on my way out of Taiwan the very last day that I was there, and it's unique in the way that it was roasted. Usually our dongding is roasted 3 times. This one is roasted twice, but the second roast is 24 hours straight of roasting. They call it twilight style of roasting, and we only have it in the U.S. site. It's really good. Anyway, that's the charcoal dongding that we're going to be brewing today.
Can I cut in with a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
From Sweden, what kind of water do you guys use?
We just use, in Seattle, the water's pretty good. We use filtered tap water. In other places, I know the water's not as good. You can ask Ree and Steven from Las Vegas. I don't know their social media handles, but they have a lot of experiments with water from other places. I bet Sweden, depending on where you are, the water's probably not too bad though. Anyway, nothing too particular.
Can I cut in with the answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Sweden, in Taiwan, a lot of people that we drink tea with, they do prefer spring water. So if you can get spring water, it might be ideal then, since that's what Taiwanese farmers and tea producers and tea roasters like to use. So you can, and Taiwan is a volcanic place, and it's loaded with mountains. So most of let me see. So a lot of farmers just tube or pipe some water from their backyard.
So I just poured in the water.
Cool.
It's important the way you pour in the water, but I didn't talk about it. So maybe I'll use this as an example. When you pour in the water, don't pour it in like this. Don't pour it in like this. Don't pour it in with a heavy stream. Try to keep it concentrated in one place. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it for every tea, but with a heavy roasted dongding, it has a better chance of opening the tea. And then for timing, I was talking to a tea friend who came into the shop the other day, and she said, so if you're using that many leaves for your dongding, then do you make the time shorter? No, it's like the same. Everything is the same except for there's more leaves, and you really have a sturdy stream when you pour the water in. And we're using smelling cups. Smelling cups are awesome. It's not essential to this session though, so whatever you have at home is fine. This particular dongding is very juicy. So I'm going to drink a couple infusions of this before I talk about what I'm tasting too much, but I'm curious if anyone that's following along with me is brewing the same way. If you guys notice anything in particular when you brew tea, just brew the dongding really strong like that. So there should be enough leaves that it's kind of difficult to get the lid of the pot pressed down. And this is how I was drinking tea with our teacher, who roasts Dongding with charcoal, and roasted this tea, and also the farmer who made this tea. He also brews tea like this. And actually, most people in Taiwan brew tea relatively strong, no matter if it's Dongding or not. But today we're not just talking about strong tea, we're specifically talking about Dongding. Any comments?
Not yet.
Okay, then maybe with this cup we can talk about it a little bit.
Or maybe there's more comments. I'm not just seeing it.
Maybe try to scroll down a little bit. It's probably
Oh,
no
okay.
comments, but
Oh, okay.
here you go.
And then, hi, Tim. Tim just got on
Oh,
from
cool.
Seattle.
Hey, Tim.
He said, floating leaf customers from the beginning. Thank you.
I love the scent of Dongding. It's kind of stinky a little bit, but it's really thick. So let's me and you just have a sip of the tea and then talk a little bit about what we're tasting.
Okay.
So when I first sat down at the tea table and tasted the tea brewed this strong, the first thing I noticed was how bitter it was. And today there's definitely a backbone of bitterness in there. But it's a good bitterness. It's a bitterness that feels really comfortable. What the other thing that I'm noticing, which is what I wanted to talk about today, was the way that the tea reaches down to the root of the tongue, the sides of the tongue, the root of the tongue, and starts to hit the throat. When it's that thick, when it's that strong, there's a almost like a tartness that starts to show up. And that was what my teacher pointed out to me. He said what I'm looking for when I'm roasting Dongding is that it should have that yun. Dongding should have that kind of yun. And we've talked about yun before on the podcast. It's a okay. It's not an easy word to translate, but it's kind of like, I think of it as resonance. But you just have to brew the tea and taste it for yourself if you want to be able to feel what it feels like. But when I was brewing tea in the past, I was using closer to 5 grams, sometimes even less, 4 grams, in the same size of a teapot, maybe half or even a third of the amount of tea that I'm using now. And you can't feel that. It doesn't show up that way. You still feel a throat. There's like a throat sensation no matter how you brew Dongding. But to feel that thickness and that tartness, has to be more leaves.
Okay, can I cut it now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So Tim just commented that he enjoys some bitterness too.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Cool.
And then Lori have a question. I noticed you leave your lid off during steeps. I do that for red teas, but why do you do this for Dongding? So hold your horses, Noah. Lori, I would like to ask you why you do that particularly for red teas. And then we'll move that on for Dongding tea. How about that? And then there's a really personal comment from Chris Letizia.
Okay. What did he say?
Shit. Sorry. The stream current something bytes is lower than the recommendation.
Okay, is it still working though?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it still working?
Yeah.
That's still working, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah. So what did Chris say?
Chris said, I can see Noah's chest hair growing as he drinks.
I know you like that, Chris. That's why I did it for you today. I knew you'd be on the session.
Okay, that's too much. That's too much for me right now.
Lid on the pot.
Okay, Sweden A say, so is yun something that happens at the root of the tongue? I thought it was at the sides of the tongue.
Depends on the yun, I guess. A good tea should have yun, but yun can show up differently depending on the tea. Dongding yun, you can definitely feel aftertaste in the side of your tongue. What my teacher said is Dongding yun should show up in the root of the tongue area. It's up to interpretation. It's not that specific, but once you taste it, you know what it is. The thing is, you just have to taste it.
Yeah. So yun in a lot of teas show up differently. Like in Taiwan, the biggest yun that people are talking about is actually 铁观音 yun. But I still haven't figured out what the heck is 铁观音 yun. I do love that tea. And I think universally, a lot of people talk about Yan Yun from Wuyi cliff teas. So you guys can kind of use your imagination to imagine what Yun can mean. It's actually a feeling. It can be an overall feeling for a tea too. And it can be a particular location, just like in Dongding wise, that Dongding Yun just show up at the roof. When you brew it strong, it does show up. So maybe when you guys after the session or tomorrow, when you guys have time, use much less leaves and brew you the same Dongding and see if you can find that feeling at the tongue roof. Not roof, sorry, root. I keep saying roof, sorry, just quickly translate my roof into root, okay? I'm a foreigner here. And space-wise, I'm totally not with it. One is the root, one is the roof. One is in the bottom, one is on the top. It's funny. Okay, Lori just answered the question. She said, I find sometimes while I am brewing red teas, the leaves steam, and if I take the lid off during steeping, the tea is more patient.
That's good, yeah.
Oh, but she's talking about she brewed tea with lid off? Is that what you are saying? And Noah is actually open the lid in between brewing.
Infusions.
Yeah.
Either way, I do this with pretty much all teas. Some teas I try to give it more space, especially roasted teas. We took a couple classes with a tea brewing. Well, actually, he's also a tea roaster, but we took some tea brewing classes with him, and he said to leave the lid slightly askew like that. And I tried it with different teas. I noticed that with roasted tea, there's like this, just kind of like a smelly, burnt smell that shows up in the tea if you leave it like the lid closed the entire time between infusions, and that same smell doesn't get into the broth, but actually comes off of the top of the pot if you leave it like this. So it's actually not much right now because I've left it open a couple times, but it's like a kind of a smelly smell that you can actually help the tea to get rid of it. We have another teacher who with roasted teas. He brews one infusion, then he takes the lid completely off, and then he puts the tea over the fire like this. That's another way to.
Not sure if they can see it.
Oh, he puts the tea over the fire. Imagine there's a fire right here, and it pushes the stink out of there. So there's different ways to do it. With more fragrant teas like High Mountain Oolong, I'll actually leave it just a little bit open because there's still some smells that I want to let them kind of off gas. Experiment with it. Try it with Dongding, and then try it without doing that, and then see if there's a difference.
Yeah, I think the teacher's explanation, the brewing teacher, Mr. Lai,
His
said,
explanation was to let the tea temperature inside the pot go down and then come up again, right?
but just slightly.
Slightly, yeah.
Because you don't want it to. Also, it's not to let the tea stew, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not with the tea stew inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Multiple explanations.
That's what Lori said too, right?
Yeah,
and that's
I
what
think
the
so.
Black
Steam.
tea,
Yeah.
red tea, steam inside of the pot. Similar idea.
He said the tea is more patient, which is very interesting. Chris Letizia said, this morning I had Dongding traditional egg and it made me feel full, like I had a big meal. No more? Yes, you should talk to our Dongding farmer, Mr. Su. He said we should drink his tea all the time, like drink until we are full, and it's okay.
and you can still sleep. That's what he says. You can still sleep even if you drink it until you're full.
And then he just comment, interesting topic about the lid. Yes, I think tea brewing, it can be very relaxed, and then you just brew a goddamn pot of tea. And sometimes there are a lot of details.
And we all have details that we do, right?
Yeah.
And we all have, even if we don't know why we're doing them, there's still details that we do because.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And then within the details, it's like I'm acting like a mom right now, okay, to tell you guys, play around with it and notice, because opening the lid in between brewings, that's actually, just like Noah said with High Mountain Oolong, he liked to just open it a little bit, and with maybe a certain type of tea, he liked to open it slightly more. Also, there's a timing, how long you should be keeping it open. And yes, there is let the temperature maybe cool down just a little bit, but you can't let it cool down too much, because in between infusions, try it too, okay? I think we touched on this subject in one of the live sessions. If you let your tea cool down too much, it actually is really hard to get it back up in the next infusion. So you try it too, and that's what I've been telling people. Just keep trying with your, whatever we say, please experiment with it. Don't just follow what we say, okay? And then so you can discover what we say makes sense or doesn't make sense. And when it doesn't make sense, please come back at us and ask us questions or communicate with us. And sorry I talk a lot. I'm not on the video today because yesterday I went hiking, and towards the end we are like, yeah, we are done with the hiking, and I just fall. I just.
Yeah, we had a conversation about this. Originally, I was gonna be kind of like on the side just to say, like bring up some things that I learned when I was there, and Sean was gonna do most of the talking because I really don't like to talk that much, and I like to be on the technical side, on the other side of the computer. And then Shoan took a nosedive right at the end of her hike. And now she's got a black lip.
So my pretty face got injured a little bit. So I can go.
So she didn't want to go on, yeah.
Go public today.
Yeah.
Or maybe I should draw a mustache.
And or then wear a fake mustache.
Here you go. And then I can use Sharpie right now, and you'll be just fine.
So,
sorry.
I did want to talk about the bitterness a little bit more.
Yes.
I mean, you could just say like, The tea's more bitter, but bitter is not bad. It's over. Yay! That's so nice to hear. But that's not really it. For the last 2 years, I've been practicing a tea brewing method where I've been trying to make the tea as kind of maybe perfect, contained at least, and sweet, and not letting the bitterness come and take over. Not that I don't want bitterness at all, but that's what I've been working on for the last couple of years. Really trying to make the tea as smooth and pretty as possible. And Dongding's not a pretty tea, so it's a great one to start off with. When I was in Taiwan this time, is the first thing I noticed when I sat down and drink tea with people. They brew tea really strong. And usually we're in and we're out within a week, maybe 2 weeks. And this time, spending some more time there, I kind of got used to that flavor, there being just more flavor and more bitterness. And I sat down with a teacher, and I was like, "What are you guys drinking?" And he said it was a 6 roast. We actually have some Alisan though. It's not for sale yet, but it's a really good tea. And I said, "Oh, what do you like about this tea?" I took a sip. I said, "What do you like about this tea?" He said, "Ku the hao." It's bitter in a good way. Mm-hmm. And there's a kind of bitterness that is kind of affronting when you first taste it. I mean, this is, you just drank that cup of tea. It was bitter, right?
It is.
But over the course of my time there, especially drinking tea with my teacher, but also drinking tea with the farmers, I wasn't afraid of the bitterness as much anymore. Let's say it that way. And I'm still not fond of bitterness in a bad tea.
Yeah.
But that's why I said, please use either traditional Dongding or charcoal Dongding, because both of those teas have a very distinct Dongding bitterness. And if you try to do it with Dongding fragrant, it's not going to work because it's a different style of processing. And it's hard to describe, you just have to taste it. But it's a kind of bitterness that's very, very satisfying.
Hello, Tracy's on, and Dana just got on.
Oh, cool.
She figured out her technical difficulties.
Cool. We're all figuring out technical difficulties.
Yeah. So can I put some thoughts into the bitterness?
Yeah, go for it.
We are not preaching tea should be bitter.
And we're also not preaching tea has to be strong either. That's like the...
Yeah.
That's like the... I have people come in and I start talking about this and they're like, so tea should always be strong. It's like, you can also brew tea with just one leaf in a big bowl, and it can be really interesting as well. It doesn't have to be strong. But the strength does highlight some stuff that's very interesting.
But as I say many times, we shall also learn to push our teas, right? So I said it many times, and one thing that you can push your tea is brew your tea long or brew your tea strong with a lot of leaves. And why do you do this, or why do we do this? Study tea reconnection successful. Okay. Too much technical stuff to distract my thoughts. Sorry. Sometimes when you want to go deeper with your tea, you do not just experiment, you do see the breaking points of every single tea by brewing long, by doing it different ways. And bitterness is actually one of the things that will show up. But sometimes, somehow, you say bitterness is, besides you love bitterness, there are actually different qualities of bitterness. Some bitterness is very bad. It's spread all over and it doesn't have a focus.
This is the face that I make when I taste tea like that.
Yeah.
Like this. You ready?
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah. But
and this is the face that I make when I drink a tea that's bitter in a good way.
Yeah.
Like that.
That is excellent. That is excellent. But some bitterness there's a center and there's a focus and there's a satisfaction.
And
I wish I can drink tea with you all too. Some of you guys actually did it with me already, and there's some bitterness. It really is very clean and very focused.
And I don't really know a good way to express it really clearly myself, but I do think I have an intuition that if you take traditional Dongding or charcoal Dongding and just brew it with this many leaves, so the pot is like hard to put the lid down, you'll experience at least a little bit of that, even if you're at home.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to do the session today.
Yeah.
And also because the farmer kept telling me, tell your customers, drink really strong tea, drink 5 cups of it, drink 10 cups of it, and it'll clean out all the poison in their body. And it'll make them feel really healthy. So also, I'm supposed to do that for you guys.
So bitterness is one of them. Sorry, when I talk about it, I just enjoy preaching too much. And then there's another one of it is a structure. I thought you guys are in Bellingham. Sorry, there's somebody knocking on the door. It's the structure. I call it structure. If you sometimes you brew tea for a long time, the structure will still hold and then can still stay one piece. But sometimes when you brew tea for a long time and the structure can break into pieces and it's not pleasant. Go ahead.
I always want to do a little guest appearance. This is Matt. Matt's going to be on the first podcast guest when we start doing the video podcast.
I really look forward to that. I really look forward to that.
He's like, what the heck?
Yeah, no, I knew I'd be famous, and this is just one step towards that.
Yeah, you gotta just stick your feet in the water and take them out again, and then stick them back in again.
Yeah. And then, so you guys recording?
Yeah, we're doing a live session right now.
Oh, very good.
You're actually live on YouTube.
Yeah, you're live on YouTube right now.
Oh!
So it's gonna get a taste of the fame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have put more makeup on.
Yeah, you can see all the makeup that I put on. Trim my beard.
Oh yeah, I would have done that. Yeah. Nah, I probably still would have not done.
Okay, go back to yours. What were you talking about? I remember.
have no idea.
Sorry, that was my fault.
That's cool. Very good. Yeah, no, I was just in town. Chris cracks up when I go into Bowden and going into town. Good to see you. Yeah, no, I look forward to our future media.
We'll do it soon. Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna do it soon. Yeah.
All right, very good.
Cool. See you, Matt.
So then I just say I love the bitterness. There is also a sour taste I usually get from leaf beaten teas, many layers. Exactly. So when a good bitterness show up, it's not just it spread over the place. There will be something that will come together with it, and then there's a center, and you feel like everything still hold in one piece.
Yeah.
Watch out for that. Watch out for the flavor hold and tie together, and then Lori just come and structure. Will the structure still stay in one piece, even though sometimes when you brew tea overly strong, is the structure that you are holding the broth in your mouth, is that so unbearable, or is it strong and yet you say, well, I can still watch the structure and it's fine. And you know what? Those teas can go far and beyond, because if you brew it that strong and it's still fine, it's a damn good tea.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the reason, other than making Matt feel uncomfortable, the reason I wanted to bring Matt in was because I don't think we've talked about it too much, but we're planning on making a change to the way we're doing our podcast now that there's some lifting COVID restrictions. We're going to have more guests, and also we missed our podcast episode yesterday.
Yeah, we totally forgot.
We just
about
realized it on the way to work today, and we're like, oh, we missed the podcast yesterday. But there's going to be some changes coming up to the podcast, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be, we're going to be taking some changes and potentially being on YouTube as well as being on the podcast apps. So that's kind of exciting. Sorry, it was like a awkward segue, but I did want to talk about that today.
So for those of people who are watching the live session, are you guys brewing today Dongding tea a little bit stronger than before? And can you tell us what's your experience? You can even tell us that you don't like it. It's fine. Or like it's too strong. I can't taste tea like this. That's also fine. Just let us know.
Or maybe you're going to do it later. Maybe you're going to try it later. But if you do try it later, try like Shoen said, try a regular, whatever you usually use to brew Dongding, the amount of leaf and timing and everything, and then try it more similar to this way to really pull out those kind of here and that really satisfying bitterness here.
Yeah. Oh, Tracy says she missed the beginning, so she didn't.
Okay.
She doesn't. She will try later, and replay it.
Yeah, if you try it later, do reach out to us about it and let us know how it goes for you.
And then Chris Leticia said he will try later.
Cool.
And Dana says she always brew it too strong for others, but personally she like it very strong.
Okay, cool.
And Tim says he brew both charcoal and traditional Dongding. Love them both, especially charcoal.
Cool. Well,
so in a way, with Dongding this way, I mean, I didn't brew Dongding 2 weeks before, but I also didn't brew Dongding this strong before either. I'm like in between, kind of a tea brewer. And after Noah came back from Taiwan and he started to brew tea very strong, and as soon as he pointed out that Dongding Yun, that feeling and that sensation and that sourness that shows up at the root of the tongue, because he brewed tea this way, and that's one of the essence of Dongding. The moment it showed up, I couldn't let it go. So now I have to drink Dongding this way.
It has to be this strong now. After I tasted it this way, I can't go back to
and so in a way, remember I keep talking about Dongding's throat sensation. The moment you start to notice a certain tea in a certain way, I think it's really hard. It's like you taste something, you experience something. It's hard not to experience it if you are drinking tea, actually, to be honest. And so nowadays, I just have to brew Dongding this way because I want to experience not just the fantastic, amazing throat sensation. I want to experience the Dongding Yun, the root feeling.
And when that happens, it's like it comes in a sheet.
Yeah.
Like a sheet from
here
all the way down the tongue, into the throat, and then into the body. When it's a little bit more like we were brewing before, it's kind of like it lights up the throat. You can feel that there kind of expands, and does go down, but when you have that really thick sensation in the root of the tongue, it makes it feel more like a complete all the way down, and also very substantial.
Yeah, just more things show up, and the moment when there's like almost like that's why we learn tea. Sometimes we think we know tea, and sometimes we, not. It's not that we don't know tea, but like new things will show up, and when the new aspect of a tea shop, you want to grab that and keep holding it on to you as almost as a reference. I would say it that way. And what is good with Dongding is a good Dongding, even when you brew it that strong, the structure holds in the mouth. So it's a good tea to learn structure as well. So let's see. Tim said how much tea to put in gaiwan with raw leaves.
So we were saying before 3 layers. It's a not a very precise measurement, but it doesn't have to be. I think with a 120 milliliter gaiwan, which is pretty average for a gaiwan, I was using something like 15 grams, like half an ounce of tea, and that would pretty much do what I wanted it to do. It's easier to see in a gaiwan because the leaves will come up just to where you have to push them down a little bit with the lid. If it's pushing up the lid, then it's actually probably a little bit too much. You can try it that way too. But what we're talking about is just enough so that it makes like a little bowl at the top. And then when you dump it out with the gaiwan, when you dump it out on the tea table, it'll maintain a little bullet shape. So those are some points of reference.
Okay, and then Sweden A, do you guys have a preference between spring or winter harvest oolongs? I feel like winter tea is more comfortable to me.
I generally like both. And I even like sometimes fall tea and summer tea. But yeah, I mean, if winter tea is more comfortable tea, that's good too. I do feel like winter tea is generally more contained, maybe concentrated, and then spring tea is more kind of like opening and that kind of feeling. But that could also be my imagination because winter and spring feel that way too. So. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I personally don't have a preference. It depends on what I find. So if you guys know, a lot of people criticize summer tea, right? Summer tea is not good. People just love spring tea and winter tea, right? Because of the weather condition. Hey, you know what? Our teacher make fine and roast excellent, like the best summer tea ever.
Yeah, that Alisan.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most epic teas of all time, and it's a summer tea.
Yeah,
like,
and then when I knew
early summer too, like
yeah.
Early summer is generally considered lesser than late summer.
When I had that tea for the first time and I realized it was summer tea, it shocked me.
Yeah, so it's very dependent on a lot of things, not just winter, summer, spring, or
and also people say spring tea it's more fragrant and winter tea is more whatever. Hey, you know what? Dongding farmers think winter tea is have more flavor.
Yeah.
So I will say knowledge is important, and it's not just towards you, Sweden, it's towards myself too, and towards a lot of people, especially me myself. I used to say I don't like Chinese Taiwan. I don't like this because my knowledge.
Don't like Ruby 18.
I don't like Ruby 18 as much for a Taiwanese teas. And nowadays, I
When you taste a good one, it's different.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah.
So
when you taste a good spring tea, sometimes you're like, oh, spring tea is actually pretty good. Or same thing with winter, same
Yeah.
thing with fall, same thing with summer,
Yeah.
same thing with early summer. Yeah.
And I have to say this is because even though I think knowledge doesn't influence me by tea tasting, it still does. Just look at me doing all my high mountain oolong blind tastings. That's what knowledge has been impacting me. I always think Lisan has to be certain way. So when I do blind tasting, when there's a tea in a cup, I think it's buttery, I just keep pointing like, that's Lisan. And you know what? It normally show up as a different sun. So use taste rather than what people generally say. You know, but yet knowledge is important. You don't want to drink tea without any knowledge. It's kind of have to find a balance. You gotta find a balance to really go deep with tea, I say. And Tim just says structure is a new tea term for me. Tim, if you don't know what I'm saying, so take out 3 same tea bags, they'll prefer. Take out 3 same tea bags, put in a cup, boiling hot water, brew it for, they say 5 minutes.
Like a black tea or green tea, not a mint tea.
Oh yeah, like a tea, okay? 3 tea bags. And then use the same amount of leaves that whatever your charcoal Dongding or your Dongding traditional roughly kind of, you don't need to measure, kind of just eyeball it, the same amount of leaves. A second cup, boiling hot water, brew also that cup of Dongding for 5 minutes, and then sip both teas side by side. Okay, I would say maybe there's a huge chance that the tea bag brew, the structure will be broken because you can't hold that liquid in your mouth for a very long time. It doesn't feel comfortable. Yeah, or it feels very uncomfortable. Let's put it that way. Cool. So before we leave, I think it's a good section, and there's a lot of things got covered. Do you guys have any questions before we leave? It can be personal too. You can ask Noah about all his chest hair, like Chris.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I love to talk to Chris about my chest hair. And I love to talk to Chris about his chest hair too.
Doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Lori said that was great. Thank you for joining us.
Cool.
So if that's it.
And when you try this at home, if you haven't tried it yet, and you're like, I want to try it later, let us know what happens. I'm actually really curious to know.
You can message us or maybe leave the feedback in the same video.
Oh yeah, leave your feedback in the comments. And if you watch us after the live session, you can do the same thing. Leave the feedback in the comments. Let us know how it goes for you. So I heard a knock at the door. Maybe we should.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Yeah.
Noah, you can open it.
Right.
We can continue just a little bit with Tim's question.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. Okay, what's the question?
Okay, Tim said, Noah, if you use about 15 grams of Dongding in 100 millimeters of Gaiwan, how many steps do you get?
About the same as usual. I think it's stronger. Sometimes I'll brew it a lot of times though. I mean, even back when I was brewing Dongding with a lot less leaves, I would get, probably between 8 and 10 steeps. But sometimes you can keep it going for a lot longer. Like we were drinking Dongding yesterday morning before we left for the hike. I brewed it probably 7 times. And then I put the leaves in a jar, and I put hot water on top, and I drank it another time, infused really for 2 hours to really suck everything out of it. And then later on we infused it again. So I mean, it's however many times you want to steep it, but I was doing that with Dongding before with less leaves as well.
Yeah. And also, how many infusions do you get in a tea? The tea brewer decide. You use your taste to determine is this tea gone to your taste or not gone. Dongding farmer brew his tea like 30 infusions.
Yeah, 30 infusions is like on the low side, because what
Yeah.
he'll do is he'll take like a rice bowl. He has 3 rice bowls on his table, and then he just, that day's Dongding, he puts it in the rice bowl, and then he infuses it for another 3 days after the day that you tasted it. So hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Hundreds of times. You just keep infusing it and then drinking that. But it's not strong anymore. It's like tea flavored water. So it's like Sean said, it's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you, because I personally don't do that at all.
But if you're asking, do I get more infusions when I brew it strong or when I brew it how I was brewing it? It's like roughly the same. It just, the broth is I mean, there's so much more in the broth. That's where the tea is going, is into that really strong broth.
And then John Hao just got on.
Oh,
hi John.
Hey John. Nice.
And then Sweden, thank you for joining us. We are looking forward to connect with you again next.
Coming in right at the end, John.
Yeah, I know.
We miss you.
And Tracy, nice to connect with you.
Yeah.
And Tracy and Dana, just a little bit preview. We plan to go to, really this time I think it's gonna happen.
Yes.
Unless there's another lockdown or
Epic
something.
tea session.
We are going to be in Portland in the end of August, and so hope to see both of you guys. We'll have information to you guys pretty soon. Okay, so I think that's it.
Cool.
Very good session. Thank you guys. Happy tea drinking.
Bye bye.
We love you. Any questions? Connect with us. Or no questions is fine too. Just connect with us. Okay. Cool.
Cool. I'm gonna close it out.